Hello, I'm Scott Thompson, and welcome to After 10. For more than 3 weeks now, Korea has been in a state of shock and grief over the devastating Sewol-ho Ferry tragedy that's left more than 300 people dead or missing, many of them teenagers. In times like these, we seek answers to some very difficult questions about how to heal. To help us do that today, we are joined by Dr. Jong-min of Inje University, Paik Hospital. Dr. thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much for having me here.
Well, let's start with the more than 170 surviving victims of this tragedy. What are they facing in the weeks, months, and years to come?
In a way, it is quite fortunate for them to survive. However, I'm very concerned that they can suffer from either acute side effects or chronic or delayed side effects. For right now, they can be confused and quite astonished, and they cannot differentiate each symptom. However, as time goes by, they can be experiences of the traumatic memories, traumatic events, and they can be very hyper-aroused, and they can suffer from many somatic symptoms like insomnia, palpitation, and anxiety.
We've heard a lot about post-traumatic stress disorder. This is something we normally associate with soldiers who have been in conflicts on the battlefield.
Yes.
How does PTSD apply to the survivors of tragedies like the Sewol-ho?
The PTSD, it is an acronym for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's qualitatively different from daily life stress. It's a traumatic stress. Traumatic stress means it's an extraordinary severity. It is very severe. It is unexpected. It is even, we cannot imagine, how much sadness, how much grief it can make. So, for example, the combat situation, the soldiers can murder, or they can witness their comrades can be killed. So they can suffer from a very serious mental aftermath due to the traumatic event.
So we're hearing a lot about PTSD amongst the surviving victims here. This is a serious matter. For those that are around these people, what are the warning signs that they need to be looking out for?
For example, they can feel that they are out of control. They cannot, calm down their emotions. They can suffer from rage or anger and anxiety, jitteriness, agitation, the acute emotions like that. And they can suffer from many physical symptoms, like indigestion. They cannot eat anything, their loss of appetite, loss of interest to anything, and the social withdrawal.
The entire nation were, of course, very concerned about these victims, many of them teenagers.
Yes.
What sorts of treatments are they going through, the healthcare professionals that are treating them? What are they doing specifically to make sure that they're getting everything they need in this very, very difficult time?
This time, it is many people are trying to provide them adequate help, and either professional help or voluntary help from the lay people. I think it's a very good phenomenon, because in old days, people have only focused on physical damage, not the mental or social damage. But this time, we are trying. The point is that at this stage, providing them medical care is not that important. Of course, the medical professions can be aside them, can be with them. However, for now, it is important for them to separate from the event, separate from the accident, and then get them back to help them to return to their original daily life, like back to school, back to workplaces, back to the family. However, if their symptoms persist more than 1 month or 2 months, it can be a problem. So in that stage, the medical and professional help is most needed.
The early stages are the most important right now.
Yeah, right now is rather than providing direct professional service, we would rather focus on helping them to return to their daily life and get back their social rhythm, like sleep tight, keep all the regular sleep hours, and then eat healthy food, because they can be they can feel guilt feelings. And then they feel sorry when they eat, so it can it is not good for their health.
Sure. Those that are around them, we're talking about the healthcare professionals who are taking care of these people. Those that are closest to these victims, their family, their friends, their neighbors. What are they doing? What should they be doing right now to make sure that their loved one gets better?
Yeah, it is a very tough question, because if you have an experience of suffering from those kind of events, we feel very sorry, but we don't know what kind of things we can ask them, or we can give them. Is it okay for us to give them any advice? It is not sure. But the point we have to keep in mind is that the first, listen rather than ask. And the second thing is focus on the realistic things, and not the past events, not the future, not the future, but the here and now. So you can even memorize the two words, here and now. So we can help them to adjust to their normally daily routines. For the students, they can get back to school, and they can divert their attention from the accident, from the tragedy, to their realistic issues. That is the most important thing.
As you are well aware, doctor, there's a stigma attached to the mental care profession here in Korea. How much of a concern is that when we're looking at so many people who have been affected by this disaster?
This time we observed that how the notion for the mental health is dramatically changed. In old days, the mental health issues are also stigmatic. However, this time everybody can understand that this is a normal response. The mental symptoms are, even the anxiety or depression or fear, are normal symptoms triggered by abnormal disaster. So everybody can suffer those kind of problems. So it is not a shame. We don't have to be shameful, or we don't have to be guilty on that. So it is very important for us to look upon professional help, and then we try together to put preventive measures right after this kind of disasters to promote mental health.
The survivors of this tragedy are feeling guilty for having survived. The most extreme example being the Danwon High School vice principal who committed suicide for being rescued, for feeling guilty for that. With that in mind, how can these people who have gone through such a traumatic experience begin to get beyond this feeling of guilt?
I'm very sorry about those kind of suicides committed by the vice principal, and I'm concerned that there can be more victims from the rescue workers or people related with those accidents. However, I would like to put it in this way. We call that a normalization. Normalization means it is not all your fault, because there are so many factors involved in those kind of accidents which can lead to the many victims. So there are many unfortunate things. There are many unexpected things happened. So it is not. There maybe you have some kind of responsibility there. However, it is not 100% your fault. So you don't have to be too guilty. And think about it. What if the victims watch us from the heaven? They want us to be getting more and more guilty and commit suicide, or they want us to overcome this process and try together to prevent this accident happen again. So the answer is very clear. even though we suffer from sadness and guilty feelings, this is a process of overcoming. So we have to get together. We have to help each other, and we have to we have to devise preventive measures.
The guilty feelings, you talk about preventive measures. The guilty feelings aren't reserved for those who were directly related to this accident. We've seen the notes that have been posted, adults feeling sorry for not having protected the children there. Where does that guilt come from exactly?
Those kind of guilty feelings is kind of social guilty feeling. It's not a personal thing. It's not. It is a process of making individual actions to more social concerns. It comes from the social solidarity. So I think it's healthy. So we can feel sorry about the accident, and we can discuss what is the cause of the accident and what can you do to prevent those kind of tragedies.
I suppose in the same vein, we've seen such an outpouring of sympathy, sadness, sorrow associated with this disaster from the general public. It seems like everybody you meet these days, it's on their mind. They feel horrible about the situation. The collective sense of sadness, why is that? Why does it seem to permeate everything in this country right now?
In Korea, as you may understand, that we live in a very small country, and we are very condensed. Live side by side. We are very crowded. So people think that we are, neighbor cousins. In Korean, 이웃 사촌인 means neighbor cousin. The neighbors are better than cousin living in remote places. So we have we can get together. It's kind of relatives. The victims are kind of relatives for us. So we easily feel empathy and sympathy. However, there's one a dark side of those kind of warm empathy. If it is too heavy, we empathize too much in depth, then we can we lost ourselves. We are too immersed and we are too much involved. Those kind of involvement make us depressed and feeling helplessness. I cannot do anything. I have lost many patients the complaints that they are watching their TV news, and they're over 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They became more and more they are very afraid. They become afraid that to go anywhere, and they don't want to meet people. They want to sing a song. They want to eat. They want to go out for dining and get together. So it's socially withdrawn.
I mean, you're talking about depression, essentially,
yes.
It sounds
it's
like.
Kind of secondary depression for the others due to the process of emotional contagion and empathetic process. The process of empathy itself is healthy and very good. However, if it's, as I mentioned, if it's too much involved and too much immersed, then we can, that can be also have some side effects of secondary depression.
Right. So for the people that are feeling that today, helplessness and feeling depressed about all of this, what should they do?
I would like to, suggest that, in serious cases, even I, give some advice to my patients that keep away from the TV, shut down, and then in general, you can step aside and maintain your, it's like maintaining your gravity. Okay, you can put your feet on the ground, not on the past, not on the imaginable tragedy. You can, the serious scenes that you can imagine. Put your feet on the ground, and be realistic.
You are, of course, involved in the mental health care profession. Are you meeting with people who are conveying these concerns to you about the Sewol-ho Ferry tragedy? What are they saying specifically?
Oh, yeah. What I'm concerned at the hospital is that these days there are, I don't have the exact number, but in my sense that there may be a 10 to 20% of increase in the psychiatric, outpatient visit. For example, the patient who suffered from depression or suffered from personal losses, like loss of their close friend or parents, the traumatic memory, it just comes up to their mind. It is out of control, so they they became very anxious. They became very depressed.
Just in the past 3 weeks already.
Yes.
In that short amount of time.
Yes, it's more and more. The people with some vulnerabilities, for example, with the experience of personal loss, especially, they are quite vulnerable. After watching over and over the tragedy again and again, they are afraid that what if, what if those kind of things happen to me again? It's a what if is a problem.
Right. So what do you say to people?
I would like to convert it from what if to so what.
So what?
And then you don't have of course it can be, who knows, who knows our fortune, who knows our fate 100%. We cannot be sure. However, there's no other way around. We can just stick to our daily life issues. We have to take care of our own family members. We have to take care of our friends. We have to take care of our, for me, it's my patients. Yeah. So I have to, be realistic and focus on here and now.
There may be people watching this who are confused about what they're feeling. Maybe they're worried that they're heading toward, a place where depression lives. There's a fine line, as you said there, between feeling empathy toward the victims for what's happened and maybe moving beyond that to another place. How do we know specifically if we're entering that danger zone, if we actually have a problem that needs some professional help?
The first sign is that controllability. If you can control your emotion and control your somatic response, for example, if you can keep away from thinking about that, and then you can restore your energy and we can restore your peace of mind, it's okay. However, once it is out of control, then it's a problem. And the second thing is the somatic symptoms, like physical symptoms. It is not only related with the thinking and the emotional process, but also for the somatic symptoms like a headache or loss of appetite, decrease of weight even, and indigestion, nausea. In those kind of symptoms are medical symptoms. So if you find those things happen to yourself, then don't hesitate to visit hospital and seek psychiatric help.
We're all grieving, of course, for the loss of so many people, so many young people especially. In looking for ways to heal, in looking for ways to get over this horrible tragedy and move forward, what should we be doing as a society?
I think it's a kind of process of our growth. We call that post-traumatic growth. It's abbreviated as PTG, post-traumatic growth. It comes from our experience of 9/11 terror in the United States. After the 9/11 event, the government of the United States, they put much energy and human resource personnel as well to investigate what kind of factors are preventive factors or protective factors for us to help us to easily overcome those difficulties. So they found that there are some personal and psychological strengths like resilience, psychological resilience, and flexibility, and social strength, like maintaining good social relationships with your family members or friends, and then keep sober, do not fall into the danger of alcoholism or depression, and then keep your mental fit. Those kind of factors are very important to protect ourselves from being a victim of PTSD. It's individual, and we can apply those concepts to our society. During this, whole process, we understand how our, consciousness, social consciousness on safety issues, how to, how the maintaining principle and discipline is so much important for us to be safe. It is a kind of learning process and process of growing, being more mature as a society as a large, becoming more advanced and more safe, more worth living society.
That's a question. I've seen reports, doctors have said that this could have very long-term effects on the Korean population as a whole if the right steps aren't taken. I mean, what sort of long-term effects are we talking about if the proper steps aren't taken by the proper authorities here?
Regarding the mental health as well, the process of investigating the cause and devising the preventive measures, not only for the individual perspective, but also for the social perspective. It is very important. It's a process of making evidence of having hope. I would like to call that evidence of hope. Without evidence of hope, it is just imaginable, you know. It is just imaginary, you know. It is not realistic. So even though we can, you know, talk to each other that, fight again.
Support each other.
Yeah, support each other verbally.
Sure.
It is useless sometimes, you know,
right,
without the evidence of hope. Evidence of hope is the real issues, real know-how. We get having know-hows of what kind of things we have to do when this kind of disaster, you know, comes up to us. So we have to be trained, and we need social discussion, social, you know, argument and discourses to draw the better conclusion.
If you had one piece of advice for the public, more specifically the victims and their families who are going through such a difficult time right now, what would that advice be?
I'm not sure I can be qualified to give any advice on this kind of event. However, from my heart, I'm very, you know, moved. I was quite impressed that we Koreans have a very warm heart. You know, in this event, everybody, you know, suffered together. We are suffering grief process together, and we love each other. And then we are in a very close social relationship. However, the whole point is that how to convert this emotional energy to a more rational and cognitive process and realistic process to draw realistic, you know, measures, tools, and know-hows. Yeah, so now I think this is the time to help together, you know, and then now this is time to, you know, both professionals and both the general population. We can, you know, we can convert our warm hearts to more cool heads and cool bodies, and then get together to be more rational.
It's obviously a very difficult time for all of us here in Korea. We've all got a hole in our heart about what's happened and all the victims that are out there. Dr. Ru, thank you very much for being on the program and sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me here.
And thank you, as always, for watching. We'll see you next time, After 10.
We will continue to do our best to improve our show based on the perspective of our viewers. Always feel free to leave us any comments, great ideas, or suggestions you wish to share with us.